Hi, everyone. Happy 4th of July. If all goes according to plan, you're watching this um, after I've posted it on the 4th of July. I'm scheduling this talk to be posted on the 4th of July, Independence Day here in the United States. And one of our Sangha members, Lily, had a wonderful idea. Um, why don't we talk about the poem that's on the Statue of Liberty? And why don't we talk about that poem and its invitation to us as a metaphor for the inner landscape? That's a great idea. When we become more rooted in contemplative practice, we get better and better at intuitively turning metaphors, stories, ideas, and concepts about the outside world into invitations for inner exploration. That's just the wonderful connection that Lily made. Hey, this poem is about the external world, but it actually works brilliantly as a metaphor for the internal work that we're doing. Lily is right. Thank you, Lily. What a wonderful idea. And so I'll read for you the poem a lot of us are very familiar with, some of us perhaps not. Um, and we'll talk about it just for a few minutes today. It seems like a really appropriate way of marking the independence of our country by reminding ourselves of some of the fundamental ideas that help give rise to a nation and that can help give rise to a peaceable nation within, a peaceable landscape within us, right? So the famous poem that is attached to the Statue of Liberty, the wonderful statue gifted to the United States by the French, the beautiful poem is called A New Colossus, and it was written by Emma Lazarus. The date attached to the poem is November the 2nd, 1883. It goes thusly. It's not very long. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. A beautiful piece. Please forgive my emphasis on certain words as I read it. I know that de-emphasized the rhyme scheme that Emma worked really hard to achieve, but there's a couple of phrases that I just want to highlight today as we're talking, and so I tried to hit those a little bit during our reading. It's a beautiful poem, "The New Colossus" by Emma Lazarus. Emma Lazarus, very easy to find online. You can spend some time with it and see how it moves you. See what it says to you. Um, but I'm going to start really before we jump into it. I want to back up just a tiny bit. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of fear in the world right now. There's always been anxiety, fear, and anger in the world since the very beginning, I understand. Those aren't new states. But it also seems fair to say that we're in the midst of kind of a constriction in consciousness on our planet, where there's an awful lot of fear that's getting to make decisions, the anger that covers that fear, the shame that underlies that fear. is very much alive and well. We're seeing it in the faces of our friends and relatives. We're hearing it certainly on the news every day. We're watching it move around in our hearts, and um, it's fair to say that we are all moved to some degree by these emotions. All of us, it would make sense to name, are scared. It would make sense anger is present in all of us. It would make sense that there's probably some hurt, right? In the face of watching violence, we feel hurt by that. And certainly there's a lot of unresolved shame that we feel as we watch systems um, erode, lives erode, nations erode, things perhaps we had investment in, identification with, or belief in. It makes sense. We would feel shame, fear, anger, right? So, a lot of us are called to action. A lot of us are called to activism, social activism, right? That makes sense. It makes sense, right? On a national holiday that's here to recognize independence and national identity, I expect there'll be a lot of social activism today, a lot of protests today, marches, rallies, all sorts of stuff that will happen today, that has been happening in the preceding weeks, that will happen in the weeks and months to come here in our country, in the United States, but also all around the world. And I've heard a number of times in my life, the angriest place in the world is a peace rally. And there's a kind of satirical or jaded humor to that observation. I've experienced that as being true. Sometimes, sometimes not. But it makes sense that what moves us to action oftentimes is suffering and anger, right? And so it's hard to stare this in the face and it's hard to name this as such, but the truth is, most of what we like to imagine is good activism is actually just meeting anger with anger, meeting judgment with judgment, meeting fear with fear. It's just defenses banging up against each other. Hence that old joke, if you want to find angry people, go to a peace rally. Despite our perceived good intentions, um, we bring all of our unconscious fear, all of our unconscious rage, all of our unconscious shame, all of our unconscious hurt. We bring all of our unaware karma to a peace rally because we bring it with us everywhere we go. We bring all those things to the grocery store, to our marriages, to our children, to our parents, to our neighbors, to our churches, to our Zen centers. We carry those things with us all the time, of course. The seeds that were planted in the soil of our karma many, 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 many years ago and are constantly blossoming in some way, breaking through the soil of our everyday experience. They've taken root very deeply in our perceptions of our everyday life. We call this the conditioning of consciousness in the Buddhist tradition. And so we can forgive ourselves for bringing our anger and our rage and our hurt to our peace rallies because we have to forgive ourselves for bringing them everywhere. Despite what we think of as good intentions, we're adding fire to fire. Mostly. We're mostly adding anger to anger. Mostly. We're mostly creating more fear because we are experiencing fear, mostly. So the practice that we are committed to, self-awareness practice, meditation practice, zazen practice, centering prayer practice, contemplative practice, it doesn't really matter what name we give it. It doesn't also really matter much whether it's done on a cushion or on a bench or in a chair, whether it's done in a zendo or a pew, whether it's done in a therapist's office, whether it's done on the pages of your journal. Anything that we do, any of the practices that we do, that are connected to our aspiration to free ourselves and others from suffering. Any of the practices that help to shine the light and bring into awareness all of those old patterns of woundedness. All of those things have a liberative effect. That's the work that really changes things, right? We are aware that there are ways of being in the world that are not bound by all of our habits of perception. Good versus evil, us versus them, right versus wrong. We know this is possible because we've seen it. We've had experiences, we've known people, we've read books, we've heard talks, we've heard compelling myths and even historical stories about people who seem to be operating from a different place. A place that isn't looking to conquer, a place that isn't looking to have power over, a place that isn't looking to dominate, a place that isn't looking to advertise its rightness, a place that isn't needing to be seen. We all have had some experience of presences on this beautiful planet like that. And that's why we're committed the way we are to waking up. However it is we do that. Because I also trust, as you've had experiences of knowing there must be something else besides the ego's constant battle between this and that, black and white, right and wrong. You must also have had the experience of finding a peace rally to be a very angry place, winning an argument and driving home unsatisfied, watching the credits roll at the end of the revenge fantasy movie and going, something doesn't feel completed, right? We know this. We are born of karma, and so we understand how it works. So that's our foundation. That's our foundation today as we look at this beautiful poem. Um, this beautiful poem, of course, was intended to be attached as it was to this um, fantastically beautiful symbol of the lamp on the shore, a place people are drawn to, a place everybody is welcome, a powerful symbol of some of the deeply enlightened seeds of the origin of our nation, right? And so the way that this poem talks, um, as Lily reminded me and invited me to do, is like it's talking about the outside world. It's talking about literal other people from literal other countries coming to a literal other shore called America. It's beautiful. But we're going to talk about it at her invitation as a process, as we should, of inner owning, because what we start to notice when we have sustained contemplative practice, when we start having sustained and thorough self-awareness practices, we begin to find entire landscapes within ourselves that are undiscovered, entire countries of experience that have been exiled within us, parts of ourselves we will not see, we refuse to name, we do not want to acknowledge, feelings we do not want to feel, thoughts we do not want to own, right? Behaviors that we refuse to acknowledge. Can you feel how, at some point in our self-awareness practice, we come up against huge parts of ourselves, unacknowledged, unowned, unmet? So, what a beautiful metaphor. Let's look at some of the phrases in the poem. The first that strikes me is Mother of Exiles. That's her name. We call her the Statue of Liberty, but what a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing to find a name, the Mother of Exiles. This seems really profound. The feminine seems really profound there. The soul is has a feminine energy. We're not talking about gender here or bodies. We're talking about an energy, you know, a counterpart to the masculine energy of the ego functioning, right? Is the feminine energy of the soul functioning, that which comes before ego, right? That original body of experience in the individual in a body that gives rise at some point to the functioning of ego. But to call her mother seems deeply appropriate. And the Mother of Exiles gives, in the case of this statue and in the case of this metaphor for our internal work today, it gives her a function. This is her focus today, to find the parts of ourselves that we have exiled. We're exiling parts of ourselves all the time. One of the things we do in meditation practice at the beginning, most of us anyway, even though we're told not to, I've yet to meet somebody who doesn't try to exile their thoughts. How can my thoughts keep thinking? I sure wish they weren't. Go away. Can you feel it? I've just exiled a function, thinking function of one of my organs, my brain. A function of an organ I've just decided shouldn't be happening. I want to exile that. How about the exile we do with our emotions when we're new, when we're newer to this practice and we go, oh, I'm doing meditation now. I'm doing self-awareness. I'm doing contemplative prayer. And so sadness doesn't belong. No, no, no. This is a place for peace. So sadness doesn't belong. Anger doesn't belong. Ooh, I feel so ashamed for even admitting that I had anger. Oh no, because that doesn't belong. Shame doesn't belong. Fear doesn't belong. Dissatisfaction doesn't belong. Boredom, restlessness, frustration, confusion. I could just keep naming emotions, couldn't I? You recognize these things. Exiling ourselves over and over and over, shutting the door to over and over and over, banishing over and over and over. Yeah, of course. Of course we do this. It's instinctual. We can forgive ourselves for that impulse. But isn't it beautiful to think we're capable of something else? I'm not my anger. I'm the Mother of Exiles who brings the anger in and says it's no longer loving to think of you as being separate from me. I've come far enough to know everything belongs. So no more casting away, no more shutting off, no more locked doors, no more self-criticism, no more self-shaming. Right? Mother of Exiles really does believe nothing is exiled. Everything comes in. All these parts of ourselves, memories, narratives, right? All of it has to be brought in to the light of awareness before we can even begin to start relating lovingly to it. Certainly before we can begin to start discerning what's true and what's not, right? That's the worldwide welcome, which is my second phrase that I really love in this poem. Worldwide welcome. Can you feel just the size of that? Everything that is known. That's what the world means usually, right? Everything that is known is included. The welcome is that big. Please, in your own practice, devote some time, gentle time, curious time, patient time, to sensing when your awareness has reached the edge of something and you can feel that there's something beyond what you can see, but you don't yet know what it is. Be clear about what you see, what's in your awareness. And also, please, I'm just inviting you to be curious about the edges of that awareness. What might be beyond that? Is there something gentle, patient, curious? Is the spirit? Of course, there's always something else. We're infinite beings. This is how we discover other shores within ourselves. Memories we did not know are still operating our everyday activities. Core beliefs we had no idea were making decisions for us, who we're friends with, the language in our emails, what we eat. It's under there all the time, right? Pulling the strings, right? That anger that surprises you, that leaps out of your mouth. It's some little tiny slight. And you think, where did you come from? Where do you think it came from? Came from the same place in you that it came from in all of us, some exiled place that I didn't know. I didn't know I was carrying that anger. I wasn't in relationship with it. I wasn't feeling it. I didn't acknowledge it. I was unaware. And there, suddenly, boom, it was operative. It was flowing out of my mouth. It was causing me to do or say something that I'll really regret. Right there at the peace rally, right there at the dinner table, right there with my parents or my kids. Where did it come from? Wow. This is why our practice must be thoroughgoing. We must face everything. That's really what we're here to do, that worldwide welcome. That's the size of the flame. That's the size of the light. The next phrase that I so appreciate that Emma chose is mild eyes. Isn't that beautiful? I so love that she put in mild eyes. When we look at the Statue of Liberty, we can see her intensity. We can see her focus. We can see, right, the power of the gaze, but the eyes are half closed, kind of like Zazen eyes. For those of you who are Zen students, you know we leave our eyes open, right? When we sit, elephant eyes, half open. The eyes of compassion is what the elephant means. That's symbolic of compassion. When you look at images, statues, and paintings and drawings of the Buddha, eyes always half open. Not closed, almost never closed. I'm not sure I've ever seen a image of the Buddha with his eyes closed. He's an image of awakening, so of course his eyes are open, but they're not half open, very soft. Corners of the mouth up. A loving gaze, a mild gaze, a welcoming gaze. This is really important. When we're searching around inside of ourselves, when we're following the breadcrumb trail in our meditation, hey, where did that feeling come from? What is it about? What does it lead back to? What's the karma that underscores that habit of thinking? That feeling that keeps coming up. What is that, I wonder? There's something about tender, curious, kind questioning that brings things into the light much more readily, much more thoroughly than, hey, what was that? What was that? Can you feel it? I oftentimes think, I've probably used this metaphor in talks before. I'm sure many of you have heard it. Um, when we remember as kids the voice of the guardian or the voice of the teacher or the voice of the parent calling our name, when it was sing-song, when it was said with affection, sweetie, we could hardly wait to run toward it when our name was sung. But when our name was yelled, or you could hear in the syllables, anger, accusation, we had the opposite impulse, didn't we? We wanted to run the other way. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble. We all understand what mild eyes, mild inquiry, tender, curious. It's okay. Can you feel it creates a safety, right? The light that shines is a kind light. So when we're doing this inner work, please remember to do it in that spirit. This is not crime-solving, fact-seeking, evidence-gathering consciousness. It's not that. Yeah, it's much softer than that. It's more like candlelight. It's falling in a corner of the room that we haven't seen in a long time. That's all. And so the last bit I'll talk about is the most famous bit, the part most of us have heard many times, some of us have memorized. Um, I understand why it's the most famous part. It's deeply beautiful. And let's remind ourselves, these are inner experiences that this section is describing, parts inside of you that this part of you is describing. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, the tempest-tossed, to me. That's just the section I want. I know she finishes there to finish out the rhyme. But what a wonderful list. And they're all very evocative words, aren't they? I hope they remind you of the feelings in you that she is describing. Tired. Everybody knows tired. What messages were you given about being tired? Is it okay to be tired? Were you supposed to push tired away? Were you supposed to work through it? Were you supposed to keep going? Were you supposed to be ashamed of being tired? A lot of us were given that message. A lot of us, right? Tired, poor, in any way impoverished. Poor means not fed. Poor means it didn't get resources. Poor means parts of ourselves, plants that were unwatered, parts of ourselves that were unspoken, truths that were not given voice. neglected, abandoned. You can feel it. What she's really calling upon us to see, parts of ourselves were just unacknowledged. They become poor, they become impoverished. Huddled masses. You can feel the fear around that, the shame around that, right? And certainly we can experience in our bodies the memory of the many, many, many times we have both literally and figuratively yearned to breathe free. Everybody knows this one. The job that stifled us, the relationship that stifled us, the home life, the church life, the social group, the whatever that experience was, right? Maybe you even have memories of being a young kid in a smoke-filled room and just stepping outside and going, oh, whew, I've been yearning to breathe free. I didn't even know it. A lot of us actually discover this when we first take up meditation practice. We start to learn about the breath because we're encouraged to observe the breath. Hey, pay attention to your breath while you're breathing. It isn't unusual at all for people to discover, maybe for the first time, that their breath has been shallow up here in their shoulders, in the very top of their lungs, maybe for years. They haven't breathed deeply. Maybe they've never welcomed a breath all the way down and felt their belly expand, their diaphragm expand with an in-breath being welcomed all the way down. Maybe they didn't even know they could do that. Maybe their breath was always bound, right, by anxiety, by holding, by constriction. This is not unusual for us. You bet we're huddled. You bet we're yearning to breathe free. Notice how this happens in your everyday experience when you're having a difficult phone call, when you're rushing to get someplace and traffic is slow. Your breath moves up. It gets constricted. It gets tight. It gets shallow. We feel anxious. Yeah, it makes sense. Wow. I was especially moved by the phrase wretched refuse, homeless and tempest tossed. And that was really evocative for me, those phrases of the parts of myself that I was taught to shame, parts of myself I was taught to disavow. And very specifically, a lot of us get these messages very specifically. Some of us don't. Some of us get them indirectly, non-verbally, sort of implied. It's the air you breathe, and so it's hard to find the antecedent for some of these impulses in us to shame certain parts of us and disavow them. Sometimes it's hard for us to find the starting point for some of these beliefs and ideas that we know are imprisoning parts of ourselves. Sometimes we can find those origin stories. Sometimes we can't. It's okay either way. The Buddhist tradition seems, in general, a little less concerned with finding the origin story when we bring karma into view. It just trusts that the pattern that exists within karma is there for a reason. And even without the details of the creation or the origin of that karma, it's there for a reason. That's actually the only information we know. So wretched refuse, boy, what a phrase. The parts of ourselves that we label wretched refuse. How dare you be here? How dare you think such thoughts? How dare you have such feelings? This is very, very common. Ego functioning thrives on this. So these things are alive in all of us, right? So we have a beautiful invitation in a beautiful poem. Let's be, let us be the Mother of Exiles to ourselves. Let's be the Statue of Liberty to our own inner landscapes. I promise when we look, all of us, all of us, all of us, we'll still find thousands and thousands of individual moments, feelings, thoughts, beliefs, ideas, experiences, memories, little pieces, right, that we have long ago exiled. And to agree to illuminate ourselves, the vow to illuminate ourselves, to be a welcome shore, is essentially the origin story of the entire Buddhist tradition. Be a lamp unto yourself. Right? The metaphor is right there. Right? The metaphor is absolutely perfect. It's right there. Lily's right. The Buddha's dying words, according to the myth, are be a lamp unto yourself. What do we do about the world? What do we do when you leave? What do we do with each other? What do we do about the Sangha? What do we do about ethics? What do we do about what's his parting shot with his last breath? Illuminate yourself. That's it. That's it. Illuminate yourself. What else is there to do? Illuminate yourself. When we illuminate ourselves, we discover we already are the place of illumination. Looking for the light, seeking the light, reaching out for the light stops making sense. Seeking the light, reaching out for the light makes perfect sense in the beginning when we are young, either chronologically or when we're young in practice, when we're new. I'm looking for the peace. I'm looking for the clarity. I'm looking for the wisdom. I'm looking for the Buddha. I'm looking for the light. Yeah, of course. Of course, of course, of course. But at some point, the great turn happens. It happens over and over. But the great turn does happen. Wait, that's me. Wait, that's me. Just like the Buddha said. You are that light. Be a lamp unto yourself. Don't seek a light for yourself. Be a lamp unto yourself. You are that light. Don't hide your lamp under a bushel. We're mixing our teachers now, but you get it. Same teaching. When we sit down to meditate, what else are we doing? That's exactly, literally what we are doing. It's also a symbolic act. It's also a ritual act to remind us I am the light. But we don't sit down seeking, we sit down arriving. I arrive at my seat. I take the posture. I set the timer. I light the candle to remind me that's who I am. And so when my human experience arises in the field of awareness, my fear, my anger, my hurt, all the things that I showed my friends at the peace rally, my desire for revenge, I am the witness to those things. I'm the illuminator of those things. I'm the mother of all of those things that have been exiled, and I will bring them in. I will hold them close. I will be a lamp unto myself. I am describing to you what you really are, what we all really are, a place that is already whole, consciousness itself, life itself. Isn't that beautiful? And thus, there's no reason to defend it. That place is undefended, just like the shores that the statue welcomes us to. That place in you, it doesn't want power. It doesn't need control. It's not trying to fix anything. Love doesn't try to fix anything. Doesn't have an agenda. Doesn't have an agenda, right? Awareness has no agenda. The sunlight has no agenda. It just shines. It's not trying to fix. Isn't it wonderful to be in the presence of someone who isn't trying to fix? I hope you've had that experience so you know what I'm talking about. To be in the presence of someone who just shines on you. They have no agenda for you. They don't need to fix you. They don't see you as broken. They're not wanting control over you. They don't want power over you. They don't need recognition from you. No, they just shine. I hope you've had that experience. I hope you have, because we know this, actually. If we've met someone like this, even seen a video of someone like this, Google Thich Nhat Hanh. Watch some of his talks. You can feel it. He doesn't need anything from the people he's talking to. Not needing to fix them. Just listen to him give a Dharma talk for 10 minutes. He's just shining. Very quiet, very still. No agenda. He's done a lot of work. He's discovered all of his inner landscapes. He's welcomed back countless times his hurt karma, his rage. He's welcomed back 1,000 times his shame, his anger, his confusion, his restlessness. He's holding it. All of it was deemed welcome. He was the mother to all of those pieces. Nothing is exiled. You can feel that. That's what you are too. That's what all of us are too. He's not the special external one. You are that capacity too. That's what we all are. That's why we sit. That's an activist. That's an activist. Right? That's the greatest form of activism we can possibly hope to embody. A living example of the type of person that we so wish to see more of walking the earth. A light. A light that just shines, because we are not here to fix the world. We're not. We're not here to fix the world. We're just here to illuminate it. We're just here to be a light in it. So thank you, Lily. I so appreciate this wonderful idea. Thank you, Emma Lazarus, for this gorgeous poem. Thank you to Thich Nhat Hanh. Thank you to all the people. You who are this light, learning to be this light. I'll remind you, even one little candle, even one little candle flame on a very, very, very dark night can be seen for miles. It's very, very powerful. One person's practice, your practice, illuminates the world. If that's all you do on this July 4th, on this Independence Day, to celebrate the beautiful spirit of true motherhood underneath this poem that underlies this nation, that original spark, the beauty of that original impulse. If you do nothing else on this day to honor it, other than sit down and become aware of how you feel, to meet your thinking with curiosity, welcome, you've done it. You've lit the candle. You've become that. That's why we do what we do. Our commitment to being a light in the world. There is nothing else to do. There's nothing else to do. Isn't that a relief? All right. That's as much as we probably need to hear from me today. Thank you again for your practice. Thank you again for your intention. And thank you again for your attention. I appreciate all those things. Thank you very much. And we'll see you back here at Flying Cloud Zen soon. Bye-bye.